Follow the rich white man.
That's hot.
Right now.
He looks good, and he looks hard.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Great success.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, bitch!
I mean, this woman is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen.
It's science.
Illegal.
So hot right now.
That's hot.
I see that you know your kudo.
People from China, they love me.
the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
I don't want reality.
Don't be creepy.
I got boxes full of Pepe! I got boxes full of Pepe!
Science.
Illegal. Great success. Follow the rich white man.
Are you not entertained?
Come on!
Phrasing?
Arguably the greatest work of nonfiction of the 20th century.
Jesus, I say that.
There's no point in you betraying your future self to gratify your present self. It's a stupid game.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
The cow?
Well, it's good to see all you space fans here already. It's another Doom Report Friday. So prepare yourselves for an arduous journey through the void, global, and other news. Alright, chat, buckle up. Let's get to it. we starting with today? Let's look at my list. Well, unfortunately, don't have anything fun or interesting for us to start this stream off. Going straight into it with gun violence in America. Thankfully, this one isn't a current news story in the sense that it, well, you'll see here. This is from 9 hours ago on ABC News. Family demands justice for teen shot by police officer while holding toy gun.
The family of a teen shot by police in Ohio is demanding justice after the city released body camera video of the event. It shows the officer telling 15-year-old Tavion Kuntz Williams to show him his hands before immediately shooting him in the hand.
Hey,
where are you coming from? Can I see your hands real quick? Hey, it's fake! It's shots fake. Fired! Shots fired! It's fake! It's fake! It's fake!
Jesus
it's
fucking
fake.
Christ!
Shots fired! It's drop fake. To the ground! Drop to the ground! Drop to the ground! It's fake! Drop to the ground! Drop to the ground! It's fake! It's fake! I promise. Hands behind your back.
You can hear the teen repeatedly screaming, "It's fake! It's fake! It's fake!" A police.
The dude's gun. I mean, he was ready to shoot through the door. For fuck's sake! Couldn't wait 2 seconds to try and figure out what's going on. Wow. Sorry, there's more to this.
Spokesperson tells ABC News the incident remains under investigation and that they won't be commenting further. Let's bring in ABC's Phil Lipoff along with ABC News legal contributor Shauna Lloyd for more on this. Phil, what's the latest on how this shooting happened?
Well, the gun was fake. It was right. The gun was fake. But police got a call around 7 o'clock, April 1st in the evening, that someone was walking around pointing a gun at houses, pretending he was shooting the houses. Gave a description of the person who was doing it. The description matched the description of the 15-year-old. 7 minutes later, this happens. The officer, Ryan Westlake, pulls up. He pulls out. As he's getting out of the car, you can see he sees something in the 15-year-old's hands. He takes a shot, and it hits him in the hand. Thank heaven it didn't hit him in the torso or in the head or anything like that. But he goes down, and then you can hear him. Basically, he's crying the rest of the video, and he's saying, "I play football. I get straight A's. I'm a good kid."
Jesus Christ! The fact that kid had to start screaming for his life and start pleading and bringing up all the good things about himself so he doesn't get shot. Like, what in the fuck world are we living in? Or police officers can just... And the thing is, we talked about this before, but this guy's probably getting paid right now. I'm assuming that this officer is currently on leave, but it's almost always paid leave. So, you know, gun down a kid, get a vacation.
Kept repeating all these things. I'm on my way home from my cousin's funeral. My grandmother lives just down the street. He's saying all these things to the officer, who at that point is just concerned with getting him handcuffed.
Now, Shauna, an attorney for the teen's family says he was profiled. The Akron Fraternal Order of Police says they're confident that when all the facts of this case come out, that the officer's actions will be deemed justified. How do you see this playing out legally?
You know, this is very interesting because he pulled the gun as he got out the car. They have bullhorns for a reason. There are other ways that this could have been handled. So I'm looking for any other video that might be possible. Sometimes other homes can show.
This lady bothers the fuck out of me in this sort of both sidesing here. We saw that footage. I don't feel like there's more footage that's necessary, right? The kid wasn't even pointing anything at the officer, and he just shot him. There's no justification for that. I don't see. Yeah, we can see perfectly well what happened. Thank you for trying to let us know. Our eyes are, in fact, they're just not that good. They're always lying to us. We can't forget that, Chad. We're getting gaslit by our own eyes constantly on a daily basis. We must be fervent. keeping our eyes from lying. All right, moving on. Was that in Akron, Ohio? Yes, it was Akron, Ohio. Just happened to be getting covered. Actually, this wasn't even ABC New York. This was regular ABC. I feel like I'm always watching local ABC channels and not like the national one. It's odd. Okay, this next one's from ABC Philadelphia from a day ago, where a car accident turned into a shooting. Quote unquote, I think he was trying to run. Possibly impaired driver shot after hitting parked vehicle.
Police say a 53-year-old woman shot a driver twice in the leg after he crashed his vehicle into hers. It happened last night on the 2500 block of 29th Street, this near Cumberland. Action News reporter Charles Watts, North Philadelphia, with the latest on the investigation. Charles, what are you learning?
Yeah, Shari, police tell us the victim is currently recovering from multiple gunshot wounds he sustained in that road rage shooting near 29th and Cumberland Streets Wednesday night. We were in the neighborhood earlier today speaking to several residents who say the shooter in this case is their neighbor, and most people tell us she took things way too far.
No kidding.
For you to shoot somebody for
this woman
having an accident, that's crazy.
Folks living on the 2500 block of North 29th Street say they're stunned after seeing their neighbor allegedly shoot a man in a case of what police are calling road rage.
Over a car that you should have insurance on?
According to police, the incident unfolded shortly after 9 p.m. Wednesday night when a 62-year-old man driving this Cadillac swerved into and damaged a row of parked cars on North 29th Street. We're told one of the damaged vehicles belonged to a 53-year-old woman who allegedly came out of her home armed.
Oh my god, she wasn't even in the fucking car. Oh my fucking god, dude, I missed that on my first watching of this goddamn video. She wasn't even in the car. She came out of her goddamn house to shoot this guy. Holy fucking shit. Where's Alex Jones?
Rid of the Second Amendment?
Yeah, good point.
Flee.
I think he's trying to run because he kept trying to start the car. He kept trying to start it, try to get him out of it. He wouldn't get out the car.
Daryl Witherspoon, who lives only a few feet away from the scene, tells Action News the 53-year-old suspect then took the incident to a whole other level.
He shot a gun in the air and he took a shot in the car twice.
Police say those shots hit the 62-year-old victim twice in the leg.
Here's the thing. Do I understand being upset by seeing someone annihilate your car from inside of your living room? Yeah, no, I get that. But the response is way, it's way the fuck out of proportion, dude.
Rid of the Second Amendment?
Okay, what are we doing next? The Karen of all Karens will happily kill you. Yeah, that is, well, that's, I don't even know if that's like beyond Karening. It's like when keeping a Karen goes wrong. Okay, what the fuck is next? Oh, good, this one. Jesus Christ. Okay, this one is from 4 hours ago. This is the Associated Press, where a driver has intentionally crashed a stolen 18-wheeler into the Texas Public Safety Office.
This is such a tragic event. Sometime this morning around 10:30 time frame, we had an 18-wheeler that ran through our driver's license / highway patrol office.
You think maybe he didn't use his turn signal? That does make it justifiable. It's a good point.
Which is directly across the street from here. And he was being chased by a deputy, and he ran into our building. We have several people that were injured, and one is deceased at this time.
The suspect is Clinard Parker, who is 42, from Chapel Hill. Parker was taken into custody and taken to the Washington County Sheriff's Department. All right, Parker did come to the DPS Brenham office yesterday at approximately 3 or 4 p.m., where he was denied his commercial driver license. While he was there, the driver's license staff advised Parker that he was not eligible to renew his commercial driver's license.
It's science.
Today we are reminded that those that serve us in...
Jesus Christ, this dude. So if you missed that somehow, this guy, pass. He did not pass, right? He failed his, what's it called? Type class, I forget what the classification is for trucking license, but he failed his trucker's license, right? And then because he was so mad, he decided this is my only plan. I'm out of options. He steals an 18-wheeler and crashes it into a Texas public safety office. This guy thought it through. The stable genius.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Oh boy, people are super smart. CDL Class A. Thank you, Pitchforks. Very helpful and informative.
That's hot.
What's next? Okay, look, we got a couple of videos on homelessness and housing in general. Start with this one from CBC News. 13 hours ago, new report slams RCMP treatment of homeless indigenous women in the Northwestern Territories.
Over-policed and underprotected. That's how a new report describes the relationship between homeless Indigenous women in the Northwest Territories and the RCMP. Linda Ward on this story for us with some very strong allegations in this new report.
Yeah, and these allegations coming out of a number of sharing circles that were held by the Yellowknife Women's Society. Those held last October to try and get a sense of the lived experience of these interactions and what happened. And as we heard, over-policed and underprotected. That was what was the takeaway from those sharing circles. Every single participant said that she had either experienced abuse by the RCMP or knew an Indigenous person who had. Here's more from the report's co-author.
Essentially, everyone had an experience of interacting with the RCMP. And those experiences started in childhood and went all the way up into the present day. The experiences that folks shared were primarily negative. So there were experiences of violence, of being arrested, of being mistreated, of being discriminated against, of being made to feel as less than.
And the society says that women said largely their complaints weren't taken seriously, and that when they went forward, most cases of officer misconduct were investigated in-house by the RCMP due to lack of resources for a civilian review and complaints commission. There were 63 allegations of inappropriate use of force by the Yellowknife Division between 2018 and 2023. All of those were found to be unsubstantiated. Now, this relationship goes back about 150 years with the Northwest Mounted Police coming into the area.
I love how they pretend like there's no funds for it to investigate themselves. But the fact is, that would be a waste of funds, right? Because they would just come to the same conclusion every time, just like that. Oh, they're all unsubstantiated. Every single one, 100% of them. You know? Needs to be. I feel like all countries need like a separate investigative body, and I guess there are, right, things like the FBI, but yeah, it starts getting complicated. But the fact is, the police investigate themselves, we get the same results every time.
Many in this region, their first interaction with RCMP officers was being taken to a residential school. So this has been a generationally difficult experience.
Are there recommendations at the end of this report?
There are a number of recommendations that have been made by the society, and they go into both policing as well as social services and better supports for the community. It calls for, when it comes to policing, better training, better community integration, and a comprehensive review of policing in the area. They're also calling, as I say, for better social services, including more shelter spaces. services, more mobile crisis response teams to limit the number of interactions between RCMP and the community, and establish residential mental health and addictions treatment facility in the Northwest Territories, because right now there is.
Well, you know what that is.
Great success.
Who needs tetanus shots? I think I'm good. Like I know I've gotten one before. I can't remember why. Are tetanus shots preventative? I've always felt like in my mind tetanus shots have always been something that you do after you've been exposed to something that might cause tetanus. Am I wrong about that one? I'm not a fucking doctor. What's next? Okay, moving on to Canada's housing crisis. 3% of renters were evicted in the last year. It's from 6 hours ago.
If you look at all the renters across Canada, 3% were evicted in the past year. And this comes as demand for rentals has outpaced supply in most major markets, boosting rental costs to new heights. The trend is driven by increasing immigration and home ownership costs that have forced many who would like to buy to rent instead. So it's important to take stock of what's happening. Now, no surprise, it shows more than half of evictions are due to landlord factors. That includes landlords taking over units for their own use, selling the property, or evicting existing tenants for renovations or major repairs. So-called renovictions saw a huge jump in some regions. In Hamilton, Ontario, they increased nearly 1,000% between 2017 and 2022.
1,000%. Think about that. That's 10 times whatever they were before. That is a lot. That is a fucking lot. You're supposed to get boosters whenever you're exposed. Yeah, okay. That's kind of what I was trying to say. Thank you, Mo. Appreciate the clarification. Ah, Canada.
The second most common reason for eviction, the tenant having difficulty paying rent. According to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation's 2024 market rental report, there isn't enough affordable housing for lower income renters in most cities. Many evictees share some common factors too. Nearly 60% were between the ages of 25 and 44, and a third between the ages of 25 to 34. Nearly half reported fair or poor mental health. Nearly a third identified as living with a disability.
No kidding, you get evicted. I'm pretty sure you're going to identify as having poor mental health at that moment.
The federal government is promising a renter's bill of rights in next week's budget, but housing advocates say that based on what's been announced, it's not likely to meaningfully improve affordability for people struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah. For fuck's sake. Is that Monopoly money or is it just Canadian money actually? That's what Canadian money looks like. It's got like a plastic. I think it's completely made of plastic. Right? Am I right? It's been a minute since I held Canadian currency, but I feel like they updated their money a while back to some sort of a plastic substance. Okay, this next one isn't going to be any less frustrating than that last one. But this is in America. 380 square foot home in Cupertino, listed for nearly $2 million. So, you know, if you could afford a shack in Cupertino, like, whatever, like 50 years ago before the tech boom, well, now you can sell it for $2 million. NBC Bay Area from an hour ago. Why can't I speak with my mouth today? The main place I speak.
Okay, here you go. How much would you pay for 300 square feet? Yeah. A Cupertino house for sale is so small, it could actually fit into most apartments. So, the asking price, hold on, nearly $2 million. Our business tech reporter, Scott Budman, visited the house, the very tiny, tiny, tiny house, Scott.
Yeah, it is really tiny, Jessica. Basically,
So
a studio
tiny.
apartment clocking in at exactly 384 square feet. But you know what they say about location. It's gotten to the point where small homes here still sell for big money. And the idea of the affordable starter home pretty much doesn't exist.
384 square feet, $1.7 million. Both, let's be honest, small numbers for a home on the Cupertino-Los Altos border.
It is the lowest priced single-family house in Cupertino. It's also the smallest.
But this little abode, built back in
the
1948
lowest
as a hunting
house.
lodge,
$2
found
million.
its way onto the market and got a lot of attention.
Highly desirable location.
Follow the
Great
reach way.
neighborhood. You're at the end of the cul-de-sac, and property values around you are in the $4 and $5 million range.
A house like this used to be known as a starter home. But around here, the starter home may be a thing of the past. Look at this data from Redfin. The real estate company
Oh,
found you need to
fucking
make
hell.
more than $300,000 a year to afford a so-called starter home in the North or South Bay. That's not what starter traditionally means.
No kidding.
Without building more homes, you're going to have homelessness, and you're going to have poverty, and you're going to have a middle class that can't afford to live here.
As for this house, it too is likely not long for this world.
This would be used for as a lot as opposed to a house that is on it. That house is gonna come down.
Seriously? I swear to God, this world is completely fucked. Just kidding, chat. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Positivity. Positivity. Wait, are we at 20 likes yet? We're only at 18. Okay, well that makes sense. We only have 18 viewers. You got like $60, Disco? Goddamn. Yeah, I'm trying to think, I don't think you can buy a house with $60. But the fact that they're gonna knock this thing down, like, this is the problem with capitalism, okay? They're gonna knock down a perfectly good house, right? Because doesn't meet their whatever. There's not enough bathrooms. You know, we need 17 bathrooms on a lot the size of a closet. So yeah, we'll just create more fucking carbon, shoot it up into the atmosphere just so that we can have that attached bath. Definitely necessary, and it's definitely good for humanity. That's all I've got to say.
I don't want reality.
Ow, that's my fucking thumb. What's next? No, okay, we got a few healthcare related things here until we hit up some other sort of North American news. What do we got? Yes. Guardian news from a day ago. Quote unquote, shame. Arizona Republican leaders block effort to repeal abortion ban.
I move that we recess to the sound of the bell immediately.
You've heard the secondary motion. I heard a second. All in favor of that motion, vote aye. Aye. All opposed, vote no. Ayes have it, so ordered.
Senior Republicans halted an effort by Democrats to revoke a revived 1864 law that would ban almost all abortions unless a woman's life is at risk. A day earlier, the Arizona Supreme Court ruled that the law could go into effect, though it may not happen for weeks.
We've got the eyes of the world watching the state of Arizona. We know that the Supreme Court decision yesterday is extreme, and we know that should the 1864 ban on abortion remain the law in Arizona, people will die.
Some Republicans said there was no reason to rush the debate.
The Supreme Court returned the authority to regulate abortion to the states, where it rightfully belongs. The Arizona
Jesus
Supreme
Christ.
Court's 47-page ruling was released just yesterday, and 24 hours later, chants from the floor of shame, shame.
Pause. Okay. Well, that's very unfortunate that motion did not pass, leaving Arizonans in a lurch, specifically women, and people who can give birth. Oh no, Anna Kasparian's gonna come after me with her bonus hole. What's next? Oh, good. This one. Yeah. 17 hours ago. 6 ABC, Philadelphia. Measles outbreak puts elimination status at risk, according to the CDC. So, if you're not aware, measles was put on a list of diseases that were quote-unquote eliminated and that had been essentially rid from the entire population by way of having effective vaccination. But now, due to all of the anti-vax sentiment and idiocy, we got this.
In Health Check, the CDC is warning of a renewed threat to measles elimination in the U.S. The federal agency has reported more than 110 cases just since January. That includes 9 cases from an outbreak in the Philadelphia area. To put the current national total in perspective, there were just 58 measles cases reported in the nation in all of 2023. In fact, going back to the year 2000s, measles was considered eliminated because there were no outbreaks for at least a 12-month period. Experts say measles is a highly preventable disease because there is a safe and effective vaccine, but national vaccine rates are below where they should be as anti-vaccine views and conspiracies have proliferated.
Okay. So yeah, that's not great. What's nice? 7 videos in, I'm already depressed. I'm like, God damn it, America. Why can't you bet it? But frankly, at least 2 of these videos are from Canada, so I also blame Canada. It's my right as an American. The lava lamp? Yes. I have a lava lamp on the, I'm calling it a void lamp. I found it floating in space. Okay, what was I doing? Oh yeah, okay. This next one is from 5 hours ago. Associated Press. Federal Appeals Court hears arguments over Arkansas ban on gender-affirming care for minors.
The Federal Appeals Court heard arguments over Arkansas's ban on gender-affirming care for minors. The state of Arkansas has asked the 8th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn a judge's ruling from last year that struck down Arkansas's ban as unconstitutional. Arkansas's law bans gender-affirming care for minors, and that includes gender-affirming surgery, puberty blockers, and hormone treatment. It also bans doctors from referring patients elsewhere for such care. Arkansas was the first state to enact this kind of ban. At least 24 states have similar restrictions in place. Most of them face lawsuits. This is considered a landmark case, and one that very likely could end up before the U.S. Supreme Court. U.S. Supreme Court has already been asked to block similar laws in 2 states, and this is part of a larger fight nationally over restrictions on the rights of transgender people, especially transgender youth. The court did not indicate when they would rule, but they said that they would issue a decision in due course. So it's basically waiting to see when the ruling comes out. We're expecting whatever happens with the ruling that it is going to be appealed in some way.
The whole thing is very fucking frustrating to me. because it's obvious that trans rights are human rights, but only to some. And watching the fight against it is very frustrating, but also confusing to me, mostly due to some of the nomenclature used. For instance, like gender affirming care. Does that also does that apply to cisgender people and using their preferred pronouns and other care that is applicable to their gender? I'm just confused what that means. So it just throws me off. Although I know that there's a more specific definition of it, but what the fuck? But of course it's Arkansas, and they can't seem to do anything that isn't stupid. Sorry, Arkansas, but prove me wrong. Oh, good. This one. How many times have I said, oh, good, chat? I've chosen this. I've chosen to do this. Okay. 8 hours ago, CNN, House passes modified surveillance bill after it failed earlier this week. Now, before we move into this, just to make sure that you know what we're talking about, in case you don't, and the fact is I don't even fully grasp what the current modifications are, so that's a problem. I tried, actually, and still have not yet managed to quite understand it. But at least as of now, if you're unfamiliar, the surveillance bill is basically an amendment to FISA, right? Which was from 1978, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. It was then updated. I think the most recent update, I think, was the Patriot Act. Actually, no, there might have been one after one. Hold on, let me Google this shit. I'm just talking out of my ass right now. Okay. Okay, there was a few ones after the. Yeah, okay, I was right. I was right. I was right that I was wrong. But the one that comes to my mind is the Patriot Act first. But then there's been at least 4 other amendments to it. It looks like Terrorist Surveillance Act of 2006, Protect America Act of 2000. Who could be against the Protect America Act of 2007? It sounds so good. Then there's the USA Freedom Act. If you're against USA Freedom, then you're a communist. FISA Amendments Reauthorization Act of 2017. Oh, so this is just a reauthorization. Oh, thank you, Wikipedia, for pointing this out to me. Okay, so it's just a reauthorization of it. I guess there must be some sort of stipulation in the act itself requiring reauthorization every sort of. So I'm not entirely sure. Okay, whatever. Either way, it's the broad surveillance network for the government that includes things like PRISM and oh, my brain is just so not on today. I think you get what I'm saying. But it's supposed to be for foreign intelligence, but they broadly grab all data. This is essentially what allows them to do it. What is next? Oh, this. We just haven't watched it yet. I'm just talking about it. Let's listen to this actual piece from CNN. You're a comment? Yeah.
All right, we're following breaking news here at the top of the hour. The House voting right now on a modified FISA bill. Let's go straight to Capitol Hill and Lauren Fox for the very latest. Lauren?
Hi, Brianna. Yeah, they are just in the midst of voting on this final version.
Oh, shit. Cisco. No Benjamin Sisko. Hold on. So sorry, chat. I saw the chat, and then I got distracted talking, monologuing, if you will. And that's my fault, and I apologize.
The bill, but a couple of things have unfolded in the last half an hour. One of them is that a key amendment that was really important to some of those hardline Republicans failed. It failed on a tie. The vote was extremely close, 212 to 212. So what you are seeing play out on the floor right now is a vote on the underlying bill, the final version of this legislation that does not include an amendment that was very important to some of those conservatives that would have required a warrant if an American citizen was picked up in some of those dragnet searches that are part of the Federal Intelligence Surveillance Act, Section 702. So right now, what you're seeing is many more Democrats voting for this legislation than Republicans. Of course, there are some Democrats who are on the side of the privacy concerns that hardline Republicans have, but this is a very interesting moment.
Now, I would point out, if you're looking right now here, the nays are pretty close together. There's about 20 or 30, there's about 30 votes between the two, but the majority of both Republicans and Democrats voting seem to be on the side of this, so the way that they're framing it, I think, is a little bit disingenuous.
Speaker Johnson. This is something that a lot of hardline conservatives are blaming him for, saying that this Biggs amendment, this Warren amendment, didn't get included. They're frustrated. I just talked to Bob Good, a conservative, who said that this is the reason it didn't pass was because leadership was opposed to it. So it's going to be really interesting to see what does this mean for Johnson's future. I also just...
Okay. Anyways, just figured we'd end it right there, thinking about what Johnson's future is, and switch to this video from the Associated Press 8 hours ago. Mike Johnson is traveling to Florida to get Trump support. But yeah, that shit is, to be perfectly honest, all of the representatives in Congress who supposedly love the Constitution should be against illegal, essentially wiretapping of American citizens. That's just me. But they're not. Most of them are fine with it. It's bipartisan agreement, really. Okay, Mike Johnson.
For House Speaker Mike Johnson, this trip to Mar-a-Lago really comes at a crucial point for him, where he really needs to show that he has Donald Trump's support behind him. He is facing immense pressure in the House from conservatives. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has threatened to oust him from the Speaker's office, and he really needs to show that he has Donald Trump's support as he seeks to hold on to both control of the House and the Speaker's gavel. For Trump, this is an opportunity for him to show that one of the nation's top elected officials, the House Speaker, is traveling to Florida to get his blessing. And it really shows his control over the entire Republican Party.
Pause, please. Pausey, thank you. Just go off as an acid materialist Marxist? My God. That is intense. That's a deep dive right there, pal. Okay, what? Imagine being controlled by MTG and Matt Gaetz. Yeah. Imagine it. What would life be like if they were in charge of everything? We'd all wake up. We would thank God for everything, including especially Republicans and freedom. Then we would do yoga in front. It wouldn't be yoga. What would it be? It would be what's MTG's thing? CrossFit. We would do CrossFit. We would do our morning CrossFit in front of our gun shrine, right? Then like for like a midday snack, you go to the gun range. It's like, obviously it's going to be on your property, okay? If they're in charge of everything, everybody is going to have a gun range on their property. So you won't have to go to like a club or some sort of... You get what I'm saying here, right? And then, of course, you get Gates in there. Oh, boy. This is about to get even worse. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. No, I think we all get it. Bad. It would be bad. It would be the opposite of a good thing. Unless, of course, that there is a sinister downside to it, though, that she won't tell you about. But if you don't meet certain classifications, you're gonna have a way different time than everybody else. Those classifications are definitely secret. There's no way to glean what they might be. Definitely not along any sort of racist or classist lines of any sort. That would be a ridiculous suggestion to make. What's next? Okay, yeah, this is also from the Associated Press from 9 hours ago. What to know ahead of Trump's hush money trial.
Former President Donald Trump is set to go on trial in New York City in a case charging him in connection with hush money payments made during the 2016 presidential campaign. That means we're going to be seeing him day in and day out inside a Manhattan courtroom.
You'd shoot books? No, you wouldn't be shooting books. But in the first week of a government controlled solely by Matt Gaetz and MTG, we'll have a mass book burning for anything that doesn't include, let's see, the Bible, the Constitution. What other books did they like? Mein Kampf. What do they? I'm trying to think of any books that I'm struggling to think, and that might be part of the problem. All right, I'm moving on from this ridiculous hypothetical.
Where he's a criminal defendant charged with 34 felony counts. At nighttime, however, we expect to see him campaigning as the presumptive Republican presidential nominee in the 2024 race.
And I don't know how you can have a trial that's going on right in the middle of an election. Not fair.
This is the first criminal trial of a former American president, so it's of course a historic moment, but it's worth noting that this is not the first time that Donald Trump has been in court or has been forced to juggle competing roles of a defendant and a presidential candidate. We've seen that repeatedly now in New York, where he's been in court in connection with various civil proceedings, and we can anticipate a familiar dynamic where he uses his legal troubles to bolster his own presidential candidacy. He's going to be trying to rally his base. He's going to be trying to paint this case and others as examples of what he says is political.
What happened to Ron DeSantis? I think he got like a low-key sort of like deal with like Louboutin or like another shoemaker. Actually, maybe like what's it called? Like Steve Madden, right? You know, he's got that backroom sneaker deal.
Execution, and that dynamic now is something that we've come to expect from Donald Trump. We can definitely expect that to continue in the coming weeks. This hush money case is one of 4 criminal prosecutions that Donald Trump is facing. It is possible, though, that it's the only one that reaches trial before the November presidential election. Special counsel Jack Smith has charged Trump in Florida with illegally hoarding classified documents, and in Washington with plotting to overturn the 2020 presidential election.
I did everything right, and they indicted me.
Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis has a pending case against Trump, accusing him of trying to subvert the Georgia election in 2020.
Okay. Okay, what's next? Oh, we're just going to watch another video on this exact same subject real quick. Sorry, chat, but it is relevant.
A gag order imposed on Donald Trump by a judge ahead of his New York criminal trial beginning Monday bars the former U.S. president from talking publicly about certain people involved in the case and their families. Trump has pleaded not guilty to charges he falsified business records to hide a hush money payment to an adult film star before the 2016 election, and called the prosecution politically motivated.
Ooh, politically
Clifford
motivated.
Hills' Stormy Daniels said she was paid to keep quiet about a 2006 sexual encounter with the then reality TV star. Trump denies the relationship, and he's publicly attacked Daniels and others connected with the case. Those remarks led Justice Juan Merchant to impose the gag order on the Republican presidential candidate.
It's essentially a court order restricting his ability to speak about people involved in the case.
Luke Cohen has been covering Trump's New York criminal trial for Reuters.
It does not restrict him from speaking publicly about the judge or about Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, but that if Trump, starts talking about potential jurors or about potential witnesses in a way that, they find threatening, it could pose a risk to the proceedings if, jurors don't want to serve or if witnesses are reluctant to testify.
Prosecutors the order because they said
I think we know why they imposed it, so we're gonna move on from this one. But it is just fucking hilarious, dude. This guy, he just can't shut up, and he has no gauge of when something is going to get him in trouble or not. It is incredible. It's truly mystifying.
Illegal.
What am I doing next? Oh, okay, one more about this same thing. I think it starts at the beginning of it. Fuck me.
Why do you think they...
So, in this hush money trial, all the stories that the, shit, what's the name of it now? I can't even think of it. Was it the New York Post? What's the name of his friend? Oh my god. Trump's network of criminal assholes is just too vast to remember all of it. But, if you recall, there was some high-level news executive who was buying and killing stories for Donald Trump. And now, the stories may all come out thanks to this hush money case. So let's listen real quick about this. Catch and kill, no more. Hush money trial set to expose jury to lies that Trump wanted to hide from voters.
Why do you think they squashed the story?
Back then or now?
Now.
They didn't want to hurt him.
You think it's because of a personal relationship with the guy who runs AMI is friends with Donald Trump?
Correct.
So again, Donnie, a jury is going to have to determine, as Judge Merchan said, whether these things were done to impact how voters felt about Donald Trump ahead of the 2016 election. And there's yet another witness who was paid money to stay quiet. Her story was caught and killed, who says yes.
Yeah, we haven't sat through the trial yet, obviously, but you see all the pieces, you see all the players, you see all the moves, and you kind of go, how is he going to be found anything but guilty? You can kind of see it playing out. You just and it's only going to get worse when things happen with live flesh and blood. So I just, when you see the cast of characters and when you know the facts that we know already, forget what else there might not be there, to Michael Cohen's point, that there might be a surprise or two coming, you go, how is anybody on a jury going to look at this any other way?
Right, in our system, as you know.
Fuck it. Fuck CNN. We're not going to watch this whole video just to figure out where this one spot that I had wanted to watch it. It's so unnecessary. We all know that those stories got killed because Donald wanted them killed. And them coming out is almost a guarantee to be somewhat revealing and problematic for him and his public image. Alright, moving on to... What is this? Environmental news. Yes, environmental news. Got a fair bit of that. Start here. We discussed some of the severe storms and tornadoes that we saw in Louisiana, but it did go through a larger part of the eastern U.S. So we got a couple of videos relating to that, showing some of the footage of what happened. It went all the way up to Pennsylvania. First one from Global News from 10 hours ago. Severe storms, tornadoes rumble through eastern U.S. There we go.
An intense line of storms whipped through multiple states with heavy rain and tornadoes.
We have a confirmed tornado.
From late Tuesday into Thursday evening, there have been multiple confirmed tornadoes throughout Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. In addition to the tornadoes, the storm system brought several flash flood emergencies. The severe weather also left extensive damage and left at least one person dead.
Find that tree and we'll find it up over here.
Do not let go of the rope. Grab him right there.
Police used a rescue line to get people out of the deep floodwater as the storm raged. The National Weather Service in Tallahassee said on X that flooding was reported in several areas in and around the city in northern Florida, with gusts of wind over 80 kilometers per hour, downing trees and power lines. Torrential rain triggered flash flooding in the Pittsburgh area as nearly 3 inches of rain fell. It's crazy how 3 inches of rain turns into massive floods, depending on how fast and where it goes.
I have never seen it like this. You can't go through it.
Residents in central Louisiana began cleaning up and assessing the damage after tornado-warned storms swept across the area. What the hell is tornado warned mean? Okay, I'm just going to switch to the next video. We got more footage here. This one's from Guardian. Damn. Just snap that tree in half.
Come on, come on, come on. Good girl, you stand right there. Now come on, come on, come on. Come on, Pearl. Come on, Pearl.
Heavy downpours submerged streets in New Orleans, leaving many roads impassable. Footage from Slidell shows damaged buildings and downed trees.
Several different power poles.
I believe Slidell's in Louisiana. After tornadoes swept through the city, leaving more than 30,000 homes without power.
Oh my God.
A tornado also ripped through rural Alabama.
Like 2 football fields away.
A road in Tallahassee was washed out after 2 storms hit Florida. Wait, Florida? Yeah. Yeah. Florida police shared footage of people being rescued from floodwaters. We already saw that. Okay.
You're dead, man.
Yeah, it's fucking insane. What's next? Let's look at some of this from ABC 6 in Philadelphia, showing the flooding in Pennsylvania.
Western Pennsylvania is dealing with major flooding this morning. Overnight crews responded to several water rescues in the Pittsburgh area. Between 2 and 4 inches of rain fell in some areas, closing many busy roads there. And dramatic scenes like this one are playing out. This video is from Washington County, showing flood waters rushing into an auto repair shop. And due to flooding...
What's the moon look like right now? I would say somehow the Earth is still better than the moon. I'll let you know when when I personally think Earth has run its course and it's time for the moon. Thankfully, I have a vantage point from here. Keep you posted. Fucking hell. Although Earth is pretty bleak. Let's moving on to this. Yes. Alright, we've looked at some footage from this already. I think multiple days in a row. But it's gotten worse and worse. And the number of people who have now left their homes in Russia has increased to 100,000 people. Let's watch this first one from Guardian News. Kazakhstan blows up artificial dams as floods force mass evacuations. Now remember, Kazakhstan is obviously right next to Russia, on the other side of the Ural River, I believe. Where? God damn you. There it is. Parts of Kazakhstan and Russia are still underwater after melting snow swelled rivers beyond bursting point. Water levels rose downstream, forcing over 110,000 Russians to flee their homes. Okay, we're gonna watch this next one. Just gonna go straight to it. This one is from TRT World, discussing further
the worst
these floods.
In decades have forced more than 110,000 people from their homes in Russia's Ural Mountains, Siberia, and Kazakhstan. After rapidly melting snow and a collapsed dam caused water banks to rupture. Before and after satellite images from the Russian city of Orsk show entire neighborhoods engulfed by water. Governors of the flooded regions updated President Vladimir Putin on Thursday about the situation on the ground in the Orenburg Oblast.
The Ministry of Health is working, local doctors in the regions are also working, and everything is set up in general. I hope that such coordinated work will continue, and we will minimize all risks and consequences. Please report regularly.
Local officials say the flooding in some areas has subsided, but many rivers are continuing to overflow. The Russian Emergency Situations Ministry says repairs to the burst dam are underway. Citizens expressed frustration over how emergency services handled the situation, demanding repayment and accountability.
Frankly speaking, I did not expect the water to rise so high. I thought that the foundation of my house is quite high.
Okay, we already saw this footage yesterday, so we're gonna move it on. Actually, give me 1 second, chat. I gotta grab a drink. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Whoops. Okay. I am back. Am I okay? Yeah. I just need hydration. Literally all it is. I'm fine. Moving on. Australia's Great Barrier Reef, Coral Sea, dying at deeper ocean depths than expected. According to scientists, from 4 hours ago, Global News. 673 views. People really care.
A team of scientists from California have discovered that coral bleaching is now occurring in deeper waters in Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Luis Roca, who is a curator of ichthyology at California's Academy of Sciences, says his team found coral bleaching roughly 150 meters underwater during a recent diving expedition. Roca says even though the bottom layers of the ocean are colder, this proves they are also warming at an alarming rate. The Great Barrier Reef is already the world's largest and best managed marine reserve. But despite its extensive protection, the reef is dying due to rising water temperatures caused by climate change. According to experts, from 2014 to 2017, the Great Barrier Reef lost nearly a third of its coral due to bleaching.
It would be like maybe if I studied birds and I went to the rainforest and I saw the rainforest being taken down. So that.
Shut up, Disco. You hate Australia. You hate Australia and you think it's fake? Fuck you, okay? Don't expect me to believe that shit. Did I take my iodine pills today? I have to take them every day, being as I come up here to the space station, which is very close to the sun, and the radiation is much worse up here.
That's something you can't really ignore, and with the fish and the corals, what allows the fish to survive on that ecosystem is the corals. The corals are the building blocks of a coral reef, much like trees are the building blocks of a forest. By far, the GBR Marine Park is the best managed, oldest, largest marine reserve in the world by a long shot. And it's literally dying in front of our own eyes because it's something that we can't control locally. So that's really kind of what, when I see it happening in a place like that, it is what stuns me the most. It's that there's very little we can do about it as individuals. I think it's worth investing everything we can in keeping corals alive. It can be clipping, it can be gluing, it can be keeping them in an aquarium, it can be trying to come up with corals that are genetically more resistant, because I think we're gonna need it. I think like if the bleaching continues the way it is, 50 years from now, so right now we're facing like a big decline in populations. 50 years from now, we might be facing extinction.
Yeah, it's bad. You gotta wake up now. You gotta start making some real changes. Burbs aren't real. Wow. The burbs. I've never seen a burb in my life. Okay, let's watch this video from 11 hours ago from PBS Terra. Something of a short documentary entitled "You Can't Shop Your Way Out of Climate Change."
It's hard to be an eco-warrior, but it's easy to drive like one.
Bottled at the source, untouched by man.
In recent decades, we've seen a boom of sustainable and green products that address consumer concerns about the environmental impacts of the stuff we buy.
Kind to skin and the planet.
Companies market everything from organic cotton clothing to electric vehicles.
We're going all electric
As eco-friendly alternatives to everyday goods. On paper, it looks like a great strategy. Companies can continue to generate goods and profits while providing consumers with a way to reduce their emissions and impact on the planet.
People buying Tesla's new Model X could be in line for a big tax deduction.
Governments can incentivize green products with tax rebates and cuts while growing the economy.
We're going to provide tax incentives and point-of-sale rebates to help all American families afford electric cars and trucks.
But this shop-till-you-drop approach to a better environment doesn't consider the larger problem. Vast overconsumption, overproduction, and the economic models that degrade our environments. The assumption that you can buy your way out of climate change has bigger consequences than we might realize.
No kidding. Capitalism is not the solution to the environment. And that is, I think, a point that I make all the time. But that's why I think I like this documentary so much. Pointing out that we cannot buy our way to a better environment.
Take a look at one of the most popular green products money can buy, the electric vehicle. According to Tesla's 2020 impact report, Tesla drivers collectively avoided over 3.5 million tons of CO2 emissions that year while driving their electric vehicles instead of gas-powered ones. That's about the equivalent of taking 755,000 gas-powered cars off the road for a year. And this may appear like a lot, but consider what went into manufacturing and powering a Tesla in the first place. First, Tesla's components are more emissions intensive to manufacture than the average internal combustion engine vehicle. The batteries and electronic parts use rare earth elements like cobalt and lithium, which are highly toxic and energy intensive to extract. Mining these elements is linked with human rights abuses and indigenous land dispossession around the world.
This is what the world's soaring demand for cobalt is doing to the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Forging the steel, shipping all the parts, and junking the battery after its use are just a handful of the polluting, resource-intensive processes that go into a Tesla's life. Add all this up, and a brand new Tesla emits 36 tons of CO2 over its average lifespan of about 17 years. And the same goes for other products we buy. Whether you're buying a metal straw instead of a plastic one, or vegan shoes instead of leather, purchasing new goods, even ones that are marketed as sustainable or green, will require natural resource use and produce waste. Obviously, we need things in order to live, and many people don't have enough. But the level of consumption that happens among industries and higher income groups in wealthy countries far outpaces those needs.
Now, I would point out that technically, even though that sounds bad, it is still technically less CO2 emitted, right? I think it's like half, according to University of Michigan.edu here. It says roughly 66,000 pounds of CO2 is emitted over the lifetime of an internal combustion engine car. So that's about double, right, of what an electric vehicle is. But it's still 32 tons. And it's not. That's why I keep pointing out oftentimes that electric vehicles aren't the solution to everything. They're not. The environment's not a one solution fits all situation to begin with. And then, you know, talking about transportation, we needed to start talking about mass transit and how we deal with that kind of stuff. How we deal with rural communities versus urban communities and all sorts of, you know, intricacies like that.
In fact, countries like the US use up resources faster than they can regenerate, all while releasing far more than their fair share of greenhouse gases and toxic pollutants.
The global economy is considered to be operating in ecological deficit.
What we find is humanity uses 70% more than what Earth can renew.
So the question we should be asking is, why do so many of our environmental solutions require people to buy new stuff? For most countries, buying and selling as many goods as possible is a marker of a healthy economy. We measure this as gross domestic product, or GDP, the total monetary value of all goods and services produced in a year. Throughout the last century, most countries aimed for a constantly growing GDP as a measure of improvements in quality of life.
Raw materials, goods, and services move from nation to nation, meeting demands and raising the standard of living of everyone.
A bigger GDP usually means more TVs, cars.
Yeah, I think we point this out pretty frequently, actually. That just GDP is not is not just a bad metric. It's like I feel like oftentimes it should just not be used at all. And if I'm not mistaken, the creator of the metric of GDP actually later on said that it was a bad metric to determine things like human suffering and other sort of related topics. And or like whether or not a country is doing well. And actually, I think I have another story today that's going to talk about this very sort of idea. But before we do something like that, we're going to move on to this. From a day ago, CBS News, Biden administration grants $830 million for climate change infrastructure impact. It's a weirdly phrased sentence.
The Biden administration is awarding $830 million in grants as part of its plan to strengthen America's climate resilience. Officials say 80 projects across 37 states are receiving this money to help ground transportation infrastructure hold up better against extreme weather. Overall, the Biden administration has secured more than $50 billion from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act to help advance localized climate strategies.
Joining us from Washington is White House National Climate Advisor Ali Zaidi. Ali, what was the process in determining how funds are allocated out, and how many more rounds of grants can we expect to see?
You know, this is such an exciting program secured for the first time as part of the president's bipartisan infrastructure law. It's a competitive program, so communities come together, they reach out for this funding, and it's really, I think, brought together really creative proposals, smart ways to improve resilience to these hazards. You know, I think we're excited about this round, and in the...
Go back. Well, these are good things, for sure. But I think a lot more needs to be done. And $830 million might sound like a lot, but it's literally... What is that, 0.1% of what the military budget is? Hold on, let me do this math. I'm not doing it well in my head. I'm pretty sure it's 0.1%. What did we say it was? 830 million. That's 83 million. 3, yeah. Am I doing this right? Well, whatever. Pretty sure it's 800 billion, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right. Yeah, that's 0.1%. I was right. I just realized I did that calculation in front of everybody. I thought I switched screens.
Smart ways to improve resilience to these hazards. You know, I think we're excited about this round, and in the several more that are coming, we expect to continue to see increased capital mobilization into the very necessary resilience work that we need for our transportation systems.
Let's talk about the EPA's new regulations on PFAS. Critics argue that it doesn't go far enough because there are more than 15,000 PFAS chemicals. Only 6 are now being regulated. Why did the administration choose these specific chemicals? Explain to our viewers the importance of regulating PFAS and whether or not the EPA plans to regulate PFAS as a particular class of chemicals, given how potentially serious they are.
Yeah, from day one, this administration, President Biden's made sure that we're listening to the science, we're following the facts, and we're taking action. The chemicals that EPA took action on yesterday are drivers of cancer and other severe illness risk.
Yeah. It's like, dude, sometimes, you know, you just need the calculator. Also, I feel like in this particular situation, when I'm saying figures and whatever to groups of people, I want to be accurate, right? Like, I don't want to be saying things that are untrue. It's and the fact is sometimes I'm not very good at saying what's in my brain in an eloquent way or remembering certain details of things in the moment. But that's why sometimes I'm just like, okay, am I doing this math right? Fuck it. I'm just gonna whip out the calculator. Let's just see. Thankfully, sometimes my brain is like, yes, this is how you do math. But you know, it's not a tried and true. It's not as effective. To be honest, my brain is fallible. Calculators are not. That said, the person wielding the calculator can be wrong. Vis-a-vis me. Okay, we're an hour and a half in. We have gotten through climate-related stuff and American and Canadian stuff. Oh, okay. Looks like it's time for this. everybody has been enjoying the show so far. I am going to take a quick intermission here, so stretch those legs, grab a drink at the Galactic bar, take a quick dip in the pool here. If you haven't already, and you'd like to help support this stream, you got multiple ways to do it. You can like and subscribe on my YouTube here. I also have other social medias, but don't use as much, like Twitter, aka Zitter. I got a Twitch, and some other sorts of things, but really, this is the place. However, if you got a few dollars a month that you'd like to use to help produce this fantastic stream. Wow, that sounds super. That sounds super. Well, you can by clicking this link here in the chat and becoming a Galactic Patreon member. I gotta come up with a real pitch. I just start riffing, and half the way through I'm like, what am I saying? What's my plans? Anyways, if you're not aware, by becoming a Galactic Patreon member, you get multiple benefits, including, but not limited to, adding an emoji or picture to sets like this, or this, as well as a Galactic shout out at the end of every stream, a secret community, and even more secret content. Anyways, I'll be back. P.S. I know times is tough, so if you don't have the money, don't worry about it. Your being here, liking and or subscribing to the channel is more than enough, and I appreciate you. Alright, chat. I am back. Okay. What's next? Oh, global news. Getting global with it. Oh, shit. Knock something over once per stream at least. Might as well stay consistent. Yeah, there we go. Okay, what's next? First thing. This is from France 24 English from a day ago, where France's Emmanuel Macron has called for an expanded defense industry in what he has referred to as a war economy. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Glad to be back. But this story is frustrating. And kind of I think an apt way to start this whole the rest of this back half of the stream here. Okay, let me get myself ready here. Okay, yeah, France 24.
A presidential visit to lay the foundation for France's shift towards a war economy and to mark the opening of a brand new ammunition factory in Dordogne. Ukraine's ongoing struggle against Russia has brought defense back to the top of the government's priorities.
I'm convinced that we'll be living this geopolitical reality for a long time. There is a massive rearmament recently due to Russia. Everywhere in Europe, we're seeing military spending and contracts on the rise. Geopolitics is changing around the globe. We are committed to being a long-term part of a changing geopolitical strategy, where the defense industry will have a growing role.
President Emmanuel Macron has been urging defense industry giants to amp up their production. The state placed 20 billion euros worth of orders with manufacturers for 2023, the largest sum in almost 10 years. Europe's leading gunpowder manufacturer Urenco is promising to more than double its production capacity by 2025.
Good.
We work
That's
7
what we
days
need.
a week, 24 hours a day. The aim is to supply more than 1 million modular charges to contribute to the war economy and the current conflicts.
The French war economy is framed around two main axes: replenishing ammunition and artillery stocks and relocating production facilities to France. The objective is to continue supporting Ukraine, to be prepared to react in the event of a high-intensity conflict, and to maintain France's strategic autonomy. The transition to a war economy will also be made possible by the military programming law, which has set a provisional budget of 413 billion euros for the next 6 years.
6 years. Still a fraction of what America spends, but it is a ton of money. What is that? What did she say? It was 400 billion over 6 years? It's like 70 billion euros a year. Okay. What's next? Yeah. These are some protests that happened at the European Parliament, where they voted to tighten migration laws. This is from 2 days ago. Members voted in favor of tightening border management and asylum processes, ending 8 years of deadlock.
The European Parliament has just voted in favor of a new way forward on asylum and migration. We have listened, we have acted, and we have delivered on one of the main concerns of people across Europe. This is a historic day for Europe. I want to thank members of the European Parliament who have spent years working on this.
This is such a hypocritical moment for the EU. The EU is made up of a bunch of countries that have caused the refugee crisis right now in most of Africa and in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia to some degree or another. Not entirely. I'm not here to say it's all their fault, but the fact is that to pretend that somehow it's not their fault and that they should just shut their doors to people fleeing these crises is fucking insane, and it lacks humanity. NGOs say it is a step back for human rights. We are against this migration pact because nothing will be improved, and things will be worsened. Human rights will be restricted, people will be brought into even more danger, and it'll be bad. Pause. Okay. Focusing back in on another thing. Now to Ukraine and Russia. And as it turns out, multiple ways. This first one is from Guardian News from 2 days ago. Wait, no, BBC News from 6 hours ago. Ukraine war. Russian strikes destroy key power plant in Kyiv.
Belgium is formally investigating Russian attempts to influence the outcome of the European elections in June. The Prime Minister, Alexander De Croo, said that the Kremlin had bribed some MEPs to spread its propaganda and disinformation to get more pro-Russian politicians elected. He added politicians from several countries had been targeted, and some had been given money, others were influenced in other ways. He stressed that EU-wide action was needed to counter the interference. The Czech Republic has also opened an investigation. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Zelensky has warned that his country is rapidly running out of air defenses and artillery to fend off Russian attacks. He says that if US Congress continues to hold up $60 billion in military aid, then Ukraine will lose its war against Russia. Already, Russia has intensified its air campaign against Ukraine, hammering its energy infrastructure and urban areas. On Thursday, a major power plant near Kyiv was destroyed by Russian strikes, and these are images from the city of Kharkiv, which has come under intense bombardment over the past few days. Well, let's speak now to Marian Zablotsky, who's a member of the Ukrainian parliament. Hello to you. Just to talk about how vulnerable the energy infrastructure is, because as I just mentioned yesterday, there were these big attacks on an important plant. It is very vulnerable, isn't it?
It is vulnerable unless you have anti-air missiles, and unfortunately, we are desperately running out of them. So the Russian military technologies are not that far from Iran or North Korea. US Patriot missiles do shoot them down very effectively, but unfortunately, as maybe Israel very soon, we are also under attack from Iranian drones. So almost 3,000 Iranian drones were also fired at Ukraine energy grid since the beginning of only 2024.
Yeah, and so this is why President Zelensky, again, pleading with countries to help on the air defences side of things. You've been to the front line, haven't you? You're in contact with people on the front line all the time. Just tell us what they're telling you they need.
Well, very simple. They need ways and means to shoot back, because the morale drops really fast when you're under fire and cannot respond. So just a brief estimate, if previously our soldiers were allowed to fire 60 shells per artillery gun per day, Now it's down to 5 maybe per day, and sometimes down to 0. While Russia has ramped up production and received over 3 million artillery shells from North Korea, at least according to South Korean Defense Ministry.
Now you've got this new legislation which is aimed at helping mobilize troops. How are people feeling about that? Because are you expecting the numbers to increase significantly soon then?
Well, people are willing to fight, but as long as they know that they have ways and means to respond. And unfortunately, the US aid has been locked for 6 months now, which definitely resulted in thousands of Ukrainian deaths, which could have been avoided.
Okay. What's next? Oh, okay. Yeah. For that one, we'll watch this one. This is from a day ago. This video is showing Siberian people coming and volunteering for Ukraine. Now, if you're not familiar, Siberia is part of Russia. It's just the northern, it's a large part of Russia, which was taken by, I think, in conquest during like the 1600s or something like that. Can't remember against who. Could have been the Mongols. I thought. Don't quote me on this. But moving on. Let's look at this video. Siberian battalion joins. Oh, that's a battalion. I'm an idiot. It's not just civilians. Members of the Siberian Battalion of Ukraine's armed forces hold a training session in the Kyiv region. Their war-hardened instructors just returned from March cross-border raids into Russia's Kursk and Belgorod regions to train the new joiners.
Сибірський батальйон та інші підрозділи
Siberian battalion
громадян
and other
Росії
units formed
перебувають
of
в
Russian
тісному
citizens
контакті
are
з
in close
підпільною на
contact with
території
this
Росії,
resistance on
яка
Russian
здійснює
territory.
диверсії
Some
вже
carry
як
out sabotage
партизанський рух,
operations
яке
already as a
надає
guerrilla movement,
дуже корисну
which
інформацію
provides
щодо
very useful
об'єктів
information about the
базування
deployment
Збройних
of the
сил
Russian
Росії.
armed forces. Establishment in the early summer of 2023. The unit is made up of Russians who have joined to fight against their homeland. Its members are mostly ethnic minorities from Russia's Far East.
I'm here because that's the only option that Putin gave us, to fight against him, because unarmed protests are not working. And if you want to change something, well, that's the only option.
Unlike other volunteer units in Ukraine that have Russian nationals, such as the Russian Volunteer Corps, the Siberian Battalion is officially part of the regular Ukrainian army. Its fighters undergo lengthy security checks, which sometimes take up to a year. Okay.
У меня есть специальность, получается, я являюсь боевым.
I just think it's important to look at the entirety of this conflict in Eastern Europe, because, Russia isn't a monolith. There are Russian citizens who are suffering under the rule of Putin, who disagree with him, and some of them disagree so vehemently that they're willing to risk their lives and fight against the country that they're from. There's plenty of people who've been arrested for trying to do journalism and all sorts of other things. I'm not saying all Russians are like this, but, And the fact is, we just recently watched that, a lot of this footage from the flood in, wow, I can't remember the name of the place, but the town bordering the Ural River, 100,000 Russians. I can't imagine that every single one of them is somehow complicit in what Russia is doing. or what Vladimir Putin has chosen for their country. As we've looked at it before, according to the data, Russia is essentially an authoritarian state and not a democracy, so blaming its citizens for what Vlad decides to do. Not the plan. Okay, what's next? Democracy Now! 12 hours ago. A stalemate and additional grind. Additional. I need my glasses. A stalemate and attritional grind. Journalist Luke Mogelson on 2 years of Russia's war in Ukraine. Okay, Luke.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Ukraine's passed a contested bill overhauling the military draft. As a general warned lawmakers, Russian forces outnumbered Ukrainian troops tenfold in the east. The new measures seek to increase troop numbers by narrowing exemptions from military service, requiring eligible men to update their draft data with authorities, increasing compensation for volunteers, and allowing some people with convictions to serve. It also does not set an upper limit for wartime military service. The lawmakers, however, were forced to remove some of the harshest draft-dodging penalties after public backlash. The measure comes over 2 years into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and as Russian forces step up their attacks, Russia launched over 40 missiles and 40 drones at Ukrainian energy sources and critical infrastructure overnight Thursday, destroying power plants and underground gas storage facilities in 5 regions across Ukraine, including the largest power generating plant in the Kyiv region. For more, we're joined by Luke Mogelson, the New Yorker magazine's award-winning war correspondent. He is winning this year's prestigious George Polk Award that's being out today, given out today in New York for magazine reporting for his article 2 Weeks at the Front in Ukraine, for which he was embedded with Ukrainian troops. This is his 3rd George Polk Award in 4 years. His new investigation is headlined Battling Under a Canopy of Drones. He's based in France, where he joins us from now. Luke, congratulations on these awards. Thank you so much for being with us again. Why don't we start off with your latest piece, Battling Under a Canopy of Drones. Why don't you lay out where you were in Ukraine and what's happening there today?
Thanks, Amy. I was embedded with an assault unit to the east of Kupiansk in the northeast of Ukraine. And it's an access on the front that is under a lot of Russian pressure recently. Kupiansk is a city that's been heavily bombarded for months, and it was evacuated. The government ordered a mandatory evacuation back in August, and since then, the situation has just kind of deteriorated on the frontline trenches to the east of the city. And the unit I was with was a contingent of the 1st Separate Assault Battalion, and they are tasked by the General Staff to shore up sections of the front that are in danger of collapse, or to retake segments that have already been lost to the Russians. And then to hand them back over to the regular Ukrainian infantry and move on to the next area on the front that needs that requires the same support from them. And so they've been really busy lately, especially since the failure of last year's Ukrainian counteroffensive to achieve a significant breakthrough. And basically, it's just been ongoing, relentless pressure from the Russian military all along the front since that time.
The subtitle of your piece, Battling Under a Canopy of Drones, the commander of one of Ukraine's most skilled units sent his men on a dangerous mission that required them to outmaneuver a swarm of aerial threats. So explain, bring us to the area and what these men were dealing with, what's happening generally right now in Ukraine. But tell us the story of what they were doing.
Sure. Well, they were tasked with recapturing a village called Tabaivka. And in order to do that, they had to essentially surround, flank, and attack from behind a group of Russian forces, and they had to do it without being spotted by drones, Russian drones, which is really difficult now.
Yes, that's right. No country or race or religion or gender or creed is a monolith. Although I think creed starts to get closer to being potentially a monolith. I'm trying to think of what the definition of that word is right now. But isn't creed just an ideology? Although I suppose even in that case, technically still true. Wait, what? Why do you think you're banned? You're not banned.
Because they're everywhere, and not just regular surveillance drones, which have been a feature of the war from its early days. But now, especially in the last 6 months, there's a new kind of drone that both the Ukrainians and the Russians have been fielding, called FPVs, or first-person view drones. And they're kind of small, easily produced, very light and maneuverable drones that the pilots control with these kind of virtual reality looking like goggles, video goggles. And they can fly into trenches, they can fly into dugouts, they can go into buildings, they can chase down fleeing vehicles, they can follow squads and individual soldiers on foot and crash into them. And they're typically deployed as kamikaze drones, so they'll have a payload of explosives attached to them, so that when they do just connect with their targets, they can explode them with like extremely lethal precision. And so that has just rendered all troop movements along the front extremely difficult and dangerous, especially in vehicles. So for a mission like this that the 1st Assault Battalion was conducting, they actually had to wait until there was weather that impeded both the Russians and the Ukrainians from using drones. And in this case, because it was the winter, that meant snow. So they waited for a big whiteout blizzard.
Well, kamikaze drones. They go into some other stuff here. Trying to remember where. I think it's somewhere around here. Discussing the sort of class difference of opinion in Ukraine right now, I think.
Require more people who are in more comfortable areas of Ukraine. You write about how people in the capital and other places are more and more comfortable. People on the front lines plunged into greater and greater hell.
Yeah, I mean, you can really feel the gap between the two worlds widening, because the front line is just becoming more and more lethal, more and more miserable, and difficult to maintain. And meanwhile, Kyiv, Lviv, Dnipro, places like this are becoming, in a lot of ways, more normal, at least for now. You know, once the air defenses start giving out because they're already being depleted and not replaced, that could change. But these days, Kyiv it's easy to forget the war in Kyiv.
Talk about how the Ukrainian government is limited.
So yeah, that's I think that's part of a problem that we've discussed previously, but I think it's good to touch on the fact that currently in Ukraine, the sentiment about the war is pretty, what the fuck is the word? Bifurcated, I guess. Hold on 1 second. Something just happened on the space station. Okay, I'm back. Oh, yep. Have a good night, Vincent Morales. It's good seeing you as always. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the bifurcation of Ukrainian people, and the people on the front lines happen to be in much more rural areas, and obviously they're not at all insulated from the fighting. So the opinion of how and like how to end the war and how quickly it needs to be done varies pretty greatly between the more urban areas and the more rural areas in Ukraine right now. What is next? Tired might fall asleep. Well, good seeing you, Shade Dragon. Lurk away. Whoopsies, that's the wrong one. What's next? What's next in this doom? Okay, we're gonna skip this one. And this next one's about Russia, but it's not about Russia in Ukraine. This one is actually about Russia in Niger. France 24 English 4 hours ago. Russian military instructors are in Niger, along with a state-of-the-art air defense system.
Hello and welcome on board. You're watching Eye on Africa. First, the headlines. Russian military instructors are in Niger, along with a state-of-the-art air defense system. The country's ruling junta is stepping up cooperation with Russia after expelling French troops last year. A shootout between militiamen and police officers killed 3 people in the Ethiopian capital. Among the dead, 2 fighters from a militia known as Fano. And the art of remembering. Artists in Rwanda are keeping the memory of victims alive by drawing their inspiration from photographs. A group of Russian military trainers are now in Niger. They brought along an air defense system and other equipment as part of the new security cooperation between Niamey and Moscow. Tom Kennedy has more.
On the tarmac of Niamey Airport, a Russian jumbo jet carrying military equipment. On board, military instructors from the Russian Ministry of Defense, who make no secret of their mission here.
We're here to train the Nigerian army using the military equipment that has arrived here. We're here to develop military cooperation between Russia and Niger.
A strengthening of cooperation made possible by an agreement between the junta and Moscow. With this delivery, Russian forces will begin the installation of an anti-aircraft system in Niger. Since its coup d'etat in July 2023, the military junta in power in Niamey has been keen to strengthen its military ties with Russia, as have the ruling juntas in neighbouring Mali and Burkina Faso. A rapprochement with the Russians, which also confirms the junta's distance with French and European forces, who have been expelled from Nigerian soil. Niger has also left the regional bloc of the Economic Community of West African States, joining the military regimes of Burkina Faso and Mali to form part of the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES. The countries say the aim is to create a federation.
For fuck's sake. There are too many military coups that are and/or multi-military inter-country wars happening in Africa right now. It's out of control. And Russia's just helping to make it worse, it seems like. For fuck's sake. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do, chat? That's my question. Okay, next. On to India and other Asia news. This one is from TRT World from 10 hours ago. India's economic growth fails to translate into jobs. And this is, I think, what I was referring to earlier about there being a story relating to this idea that a GDP going up doesn't necessarily mean that people are doing better.
Shubham Tripathi did his master's in technology in 2021. Born to a low-income family in Uttar Pradesh, this young engineer has been struggling to find jobs.
It is not easy for us because many data have come since last 3 to 4 years that the guys who are graduating from IITs and NITs, which are prestigious institutions for engineers, and also from the IIMs also, they are jobless till now.
Tripathi spent almost $14,000 to pay for his higher education, but his last job paid only around $350 per month. So like millions of other young people, he's preparing for government exams to get a job with greater security.
Jobs have reduced in any sector that we see. Government jobs that used to be notified earlier are shrinking every passing year. Only 1/4 jobs are now advertised. And in private sector, for someone who has a technical engineering background, has done BTech, MTech, the salaries that he aspires for are not available. Students end up working for only for $250, $300 monthly.
With its 1.4 billion people and $3.6 trillion economy, India's infrastructure is booming. Its lucrative markets are attracting foreign investment and has the largest youth population in the world. According to the International Labour Organization, nearly 40% of the population is aged between 13 and 35. But worries are mounting that the economic growth rate is not translating into jobs for the young.
This youth bulge which India is experiencing can be leveraged into something productive, but only if we invest in the right skill training and education, So
yeah, and they need to diversify over there. Oh god, okay, what's next? Have I ever played diplomacy? If I ever played diplomacy, I'd understand that the moral corruption in international politics. When you drove Henry Kissinger, he put you on I don't know what this means. I don't know what you're trying to say right now. Are you drinking again? Sir, I'm gonna need you to blow into this. Okay. Thailand. People flee to Thailand amid intense fighting in Myanmar. This is from Guardian News. Now we've been talking about Myanmar to some to some degree here, mostly in relation to the what's it fucking called? The Rohingya genocide and the ethnic cleansing that's happening in Myanmar. So yeah, let's look at this video. People are leaving to go to Thailand. By the way, just to get perspective, Myanmar has a shared border with Thailand. Thousands of people from Myanmar fled their homes to escape fighting between the military and an ethnic armed group that has aligned itself with the country's wider pro-democracy resistance. In Myanmar, the junta used airstrikes. I couldn't sleep at home, so I went to take shelter at a temple in Myanmar. But I am afraid, and I feel safer on this side of the border. Two of us, mother and son, chose to come here first. My husband will follow. They can't bomb Thailand. Okay. I guess that's true. In theory. Miyawadi and... oh, shit. I didn't catch that one. Son of a bitch. There it is. Myawaddy in Kayin State is one of the most important border crossings in Myanmar. And crucial to the flow of goods between the country and Thailand. It has been controlled by the junta for decades. You don't drink and drive, that's good. Not drinking and driving is a good thing. That is undoubted. What the heck is next? Oh. Okay, cool. This next one's from Democracy Now! From 12 hours ago. Council of War, quote-unquote, Walden Bellow on Biden's trilateral summit with Philippines and Japan to contain China.
President Biden hosted a first-of-its-kind trilateral summit at the White House Thursday with Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. The summit came as the U.S. moves to expand its military presence around the South China Sea. Launching the White House meeting with the three leaders, Biden affirmed that a 1950s-era mutual defense treaty binding Washington and Manila would require the U.S. to respond to an armed attack on the Philippines in the South China Sea.
United States defense commitments to Japan and to the Philippines are ironclad. They're ironclad. As I've said before, any attack on Philippine aircraft, vessels, or armed forces in the South China Sea would invoke our mutual defense treaty.
The Philippines under Marcos has deepened military ties with both the United States and Japan as maritime run-ins with China in the South China Sea have escalated. At Thursday's meeting, Marcos reaffirmed Manila's strong ties with Washington.
We meet today as friends and partners bound by a shared vision and pursuit of a peaceful, stable, and prosperous Indo-Pacific. It is a partnership born not out of convenience nor of expediency, but as a natural progression of a deepening relation and robust cooperation amongst our three countries.
Marcos has allowed the number of Philippine bases American soldiers can access to nearly double under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. The trilateral summit sparked protests in Manila, where demonstrators marched in the streets to denounce the expanding U.S. presence in the Philippines. This is Mang Palatino, Secretary General of Bayan, an alliance of leftist groups in the Philippines, speaking at the protest.
The trilateral summit will lead to the installation of foreign military bases, intensified foreign military build-up, and it will also lead to the escalation of conflict in the West Philippine Sea and in Asia-Pacific.
Thursday's trilateral summit came a day after President Biden hosted a state visit for Japanese Prime Minister Kishida, during which he unveiled a historic upgrade in military ties. For more, we're joined by Walden Bellow, acclaimed Filipino scholar, activist, former vice presidential candidate in the Philippines. He just returned from Honolulu, where he was attending a conference against militarism in the Asia-Pacific region. He co-founded Focus on the Global South and is an adjunct professor of sociology at the State University of New York at Binghamton, where he's joining us.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played the game Diplomacy. Sounds interesting. Maybe I'll look it up.
Today. Walden, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. You've just returned from this Hawaii anti-militarism conference, just as President Biden holds this trilateral summit with the leaders of the Philippines as well as Japan at the White House. Can you talk about your concerns about this meeting?
Thank you very much, Amy, for inviting me. Yes. This trilateral summit is something that really resembles something like a council of war, in which the emperor brings his local chieftains from the Pacific to come and, move in a way to raise the military containment of China. So the excuse for this has been the skirmishes between the Philippines and China in the South China Sea, or what we call the West Philippine Sea. But the larger picture really has been, it's another step in the US's driven strategic containment of China. So this is, in my sense, this is really
that's something that I don't think of, like when I think of Japan. But he makes a good point. Japan is technically occupied. There's multiple U.S. bases in Japan, on Japan. What? Yeah.
in a kind of provocative strategy of containing China at this point in time. And it is creating tremendous alarm throughout the Pacific. And I was just in this anti-military conference in the Pacific in Honolulu, where we had activists and researchers from throughout the region coming together to share our concerns that, over the last...
Well, there's actually even more than I thought. There's 23 U.S. bases in Japan. Wait, no, 7? Wait, there's conflicting information here. We'll just go with the lower one. 7 sounds like closer to what I was thinking.
5
Still a
years,
lot.
But particularly over the last 3 years, the U.S. has been very, very aggressive in its push to so-called contain China. So we are now talking about, a region where tensions are very high, and I think if this continues, things could become really, really hairy.
Now, interestingly, President Biden just spoke with President Xi of China on the phone for almost 2 hours not so long ago, but then held this trilateral summit. The headline in the New York Times, Biden aims to project united front against China at White House summit. So talk about what is happening between the United States and China, and how the Philippines, and especially activists in the Philippines, we just heard protesters, and Japan are dealing with this.
Well, the United States has, really moved in a strategy of containing China, as it puts it. And the Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines are on the front lines of this effort of the United States. Japan is, for all intents and purposes, still an occupied country and has been very subservient to Washington. And the Philippines, under President Marcos, has practically outsource its defense and foreign policy.
Did he not say that before? I just
to the
imagined
United
it.
States. Now, I
Probably 'cause I
served
listened to
in
this
the
before.
Philippine Congress together with
Oh my
Marcos,
God,
and I would just like to say at this
hallucinating,
point
Chad.
that he has
That's bad.
very little notion of the national interest of the Philippines. His main concern really has been to safeguard the $10 billion worth of fortune of the Marcos family that are spread throughout the United States as well as allied states of the United States. So the alliance with the United States on the part of the Marcos family is really driven by personal economic interests. And Japan, on the other hand, has been always subservient to U.S. policy. So we are seeing the United States, in fact, move to upgrade its military deployments throughout the Pacific at this point in time. You're talking about 100 bases, at least in Japan. You have about 60 bases in South Korea. You have 9 bases
100.
in the Philippines. There's Guam. So you have this
That's even more than I
iron
thought.
steel of containment that is
Holy
moving,
shit.
Against
Wow.
China, pushed by the United States. More than that, NATO has expanded to the South China Sea.
How do you even fit 100 U.S. bases on Japan? It's not that big of a place. I mean, it's not that small. It's a big-ass island, but still, 100? It's a lot. It seems almost impossible.
vessels from the UK, from Germany, from France now regularly visit the area at the behest of the United States. Australia is there. In fact, just 4 days ago, we had this announcement of U.S., Australian, Philippine, and Japanese ships getting together in deploying themselves as a so-called patrol near the territorial waters of China. So this militarization of the Pacific is very dangerous. We're you know, when you're talking about NATO ships in East Asian waters, you are really talking about a very coordinated strategy at this point that's being pushed by Washington.
In other news from the region, the U.S. has announced plans to expand a Navy base in Papua New Guinea, where China's also attempted to increase its footprint. The significance of this, Walden Bello.
Well, yes. I mean, we will see that the United States will undertake such moves in the South Pacific. And we've got to realize also that the United States has intelligence bases in Australia. And we are talking about a situation whereby the Chinese moves have been mainly
You wonder how many Costco's there are in Japan? That's a good question. That's a good question. I was actually looking up how many Japanese military installments there were in Japan, but I couldn't find a good number, or any number on it. I don't know what I'm doing wrong in my research here. Because I was like, 100 seems like potentially more than the number of, I guess what you'd call, Japanese fortifications. I could be wrong, but it's just a crazy number. Yeah, someone look that up. How many Costco's are in Japan?
In nature, in fact, what we're talking about is, at this point in time, there's only one Chinese overseas base, and that's in Djibouti, in the Indian Ocean. And this is mainly meant to be against piracy, but the United States is expanding its bases footprint throughout in the effort to contain China, as it puts it.
And Walden, if you can talk more about the protests on the ground in the Philippines, and I'm looking at an article from AP of December about Titu Island, the Philippines inaugurating a new Coast Guard monitoring base on an island occupied by Filipino forces in the disputed South China Sea, and the significance of this area of surveillance working with the United States.
Well, you know, the situation in the South China Sea, which we call the West Philippine Sea, China has made a number of moves in the area which have been quite illegal.
Yeah.
And has threatened Philippine fishermen. And the push of China has, in fact, elicited tremendous concern among Filipinos. And you know, this moves of declaring the South China Sea, 90% of the South China Sea, as a Chinese territory, has been roundly denounced throughout the region. But the one thing that we really must put into perspective is that these moves are mainly dictated by a defensive strategy of China trying to expand its.
So there's only 33 Costco's in Japan. So there's 3 times as many U.S. military bases in Japan than there are Costco's. That makes sense. Yeah. They really are an occupied country. Jesus Christ. It's a perspective I just didn't consider. I think it's one of those things you just don't necessarily put into perspective until somebody else does it for you. Fuck's sake. I knew that there were definitely military bases and that the United States worked with Japan, but it feels less like working with and more like we are here.
Defensive perimeter outside, because the problem is that in the South China Sea, it borders the industrial infrastructure of China in the coastal areas of South and Southeastern China, and that is very vulnerable in terms of the Chinese industrial capacity. And what we are talking about is that that area is very much threatened by.
Do I ever wonder why they're strict on CDL drivers? I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's no obvious answers I can come up with, like the fact that you have a how many tons is an 18-wheeler? It's a lot of tons. I know that. I want to say like 100 tons. That might be an overshoot. But yeah, and you're going, whatever, 75, 65 miles an hour on the highway with other human beings. Not that cars aren't, similarly dangerous. Am I surprised that America's... I'm not surprised. I just didn't understand to the extent that America had military bases in there. I just had never done the research on that particular fact. And it is somewhat shocking, the number. Like, I was familiar with a few of them, right? Like, I had heard this or that thing about them, whether it was like in Okinawa or wherever else, but 100? That's a big number. What's next? CDL drivers move the nukes. That's why there's a I know that CDL drivers move all sorts of dangerous material. I suppose that sounds right. Well, I feel like you must need like some more training for that, right? Not just like a normal CDL. Okay, moving on from Asia to the Middle East. First with this from Al Jazeera English. Biden growing isolated.
Well, joining us here now in studio is Mark Owen Jones, the Associate Professor of Middle East Studies at Hamad bin Khalifa University. Good to have you with us again, just to analyse what's going on through the day. Imran was, suggesting, as we all have in our conversations about this issue of Israel dragging Iran into this after that attack on the consular office in Damascus. And Israel knows when it comes to the issue of Iran, it will always be backed by the US, and that's been reconfirmed by Blinken's ironclad guarantee. Is that always set in stone?
I think it's pretty hard to see the US abandoning Israel. And I think given the current politics of Iran, over the past 5 years since the Trump administration, Biden hasn't done much to actually reestablish the JCPOA agreement. So Biden has been continuing the US relationship with Iran in the same way as his predecessor. So I don't think we're going to see that change. And I think but Netanyahu knows that by attacking Iranian soil, he is going to create a battle of rhetoric. The Iranians are going to increase their threats, their verbal rhetoric to threaten Israel, which they are doing. And we've seen the Supreme Leader even participate in this. And simply by doing that, that's going to necessitate a US response, as we have seen, with the Biden reaffirming his commitment to defending Israel. And of course, this also undermines Biden's previous criticisms of Netanyahu, because he's gone from saying, hey, I'm being firm with Netanyahu, we need to get aid to the Gazans, to basically going down a different tack and say, hey, we will always support Israel. So what message did that send? That sends the message to Netanyahu that it doesn't matter really what Netanyahu does. At the end of the day, Biden is going to unequivocally support what Israel does. So really that takes the pressure off Netanyahu to try and, for example, resolve the aid situation in Gaza, and certainly takes the pressure off to try and find a political solution here, which Hamas are trying to look for in their call for a ceasefire.
Indeed, there's a lot of speculation, and there's a lot of angst at the moment. We have to be very careful about what we say in terms of what may happen next, because we don't know.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, there are lots of moving parts. And when you have this scenario and this conversation happening from Israel about what they intend to do, what they want to do, and how they're going to react, this makes the neighborhood nervous.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing, at the moment, that much comment from Amman, from Cairo, from Riyadh. I'm just wondering what the thought process there was, knowing that they're all involved in the negotiations to try and find a peace, pause or ceasefire in the current war on Gaza.
Well, I think no one in the neighborhood, so to speak, wants a regional escalation. And I think Amman, we see it in Riyadh, are being extremely cautious, because anything they say now can actually be interpreted in such a way as to potentially jeopardize or harm the negotiations that are going on between Qatar, Hamas, Israel, and Cairo. So I think there is an element of caution then. And, you know, I think people are also uncertain. You know, there is, like you said, there's a lot of moving parts. And a lot of the things that have happened have been hard to predict. For example, the assassination of Ismail Hania's children and grandchildren was something that people didn't necessarily expect. So I think there's a level of not just caution, but actual, perhaps, an inability to actually know what to do. And there's traditionally this notion that, you know, well, US leadership in the Middle East, despite being problematic, is something that a lot of the Arab states have kind of sought as important. But now the US are equivocating, and I think the states in the region are actually not sure necessarily what to do with that, right? So I think it's...
Yeah. Which is bad for a lot of reasons. Stability in the region, supposed American, what do you call it? Not exceptionalism, although it's certainly tied into it. That's not the word I'm looking for. I'm always forgetting words. Happen to me all the time. What happened? You went to Japan in your 20s and got hit on by more American soldiers than by Japanese people. And apparently the soldiers thought you were Japanese and would speak about you loudly. How nice of them. And the other thing about that is that I feel like most Japanese children learn English, don't they? So it's not like... I could be wrong about that, but I feel like a lot of Japanese children learn English in school, and so I feel as though that's not a very effective way of being crypto, you know, inconspicuous. That was it, just space pollen. Okay, what is next? Okay, sticking with American foreign policy, let's just watch this clip that includes what they were talking about with Biden saying that U.S. is devoted to Israel.
God bless you all.
Oh, good.
God protect our troops. Thank you very much.
Imminent, do you think an attack on Israel is from Iran, Mr. President?
I don't want to get into secure information, but my expectation sooner than later.
What is your message to Iran? What is your message to Iran right now?
Mr. President, to Iran in this moment.
Don't.
Are American personnel and assets at risk, Mr. President? Mr. President, are American troops at risk as well?
We are devoted to the defense of Israel. We will support Israel. We will help defend Israel, and Iran will not succeed. Thank you very much.
Good God. We support Israel in anything, including things that are definitely not self-defense and are in fact war crimes. Like bombing embassies and consulates and genocide. Ethnic cleansing campaigns. Alright, I'm gonna stop talking. Okay, this next one is from a day ago, France 24 English. Israel on alert after Iranian threat. France 24.
The US President Joe Biden has promised Israel ironclad support amid fears Tehran could retaliate for an attack that killed senior Iranians in Damascus 10 days ago. The US warning says it could be on Israeli soil and that the attack could come soon. Have a listen to Joe Biden.
We also want to address the Iranian threat they're threatening to launch a significant attack on Israel. As I told Prime Minister Netanyahu, our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad. Let me say it again, ironclad.
Joe Biden made those comments as Iran's leader said the Israeli strike, which hit the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria, was the equivalent to an attack on Iran itself. Now, the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, alluded to those Iranian threats today during a visit to an Air Force base in the south of Israel.
It's also kind of an attack on Syria as well. I don't understand. That's one thing that's been happening forever, is foreign military strikes happening inside Syria, just like over and over again.
We are in challenging times. We're in the middle of a war in Gaza which continues in full force. At the same time, we continue our non-stop efforts to return our hostages. But we're also preparing for scenarios of challenges from other arenas. We established a simple principle. Whoever hurts us, we hurt him. We are preparing to meet the security needs of the State of Israel, both in defense and in attack. I and the people of Israel trust you, and may we all have great success.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Great success. More on this, our foreign affairs commentator Douglas Herbert is with me. And Doug, look, tensions have been running high in the region for a long time now, but even more so at this moment.
Yeah, look, tensions have been on a knife edge in this region, right, since October 7th. You could argue even before. Now they've ratcheted up to a new notch, a new escalation. Look, you had Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, just saying in the past 24 hours, basically, that an attack on an Iranian consulate in Damascus is equivalent to an attack on Iran itself. It's a diplomatic compound, so it equals attacking Iran. He says the evil regime must be punished, and it will be punished. Those are the words of Ayatollah Khamenei, coming on the heels of Joe Biden, as you reported, basically warning of what he called the possibility of a significant, the threats of a significant attack in the region. Meanwhile, you have Russia issuing an advisory today warning its citizens not to travel unless absolutely necessary to the Mideast region right now, especially Israel, especially Lebanon, especially the Palestinian territories, and the Israeli army on high alert, as are a lot of the U.S. interests and embassies in the region. Israeli embassies have been essentially almost singled out. You had Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, saying that the Israeli army has been preparing and has completed what he calls preparations for any number of multiple possible scenarios. Obviously, chief among those scenarios, or perhaps the biggest perceived threat, would be a direct attack in some form on Israel from Iranian soil. It's not to say that's the form in which it's going
to... I'll be honest, Pitchforks. To start the sentence with the phrase "not to be ageist" makes it all sound much more ageist. But I do understand what you're trying to say, and yeah, our quote-unquote choices are pretty fucking garbage, and the daylight between the two is, well, it's pretty small.
And how soon it's going to come. But that's the biggest threat. They're preparing for a lot of scenarios. I will quote that that on a top advisor to Khamenei, after Khamenei's remarks, also said that Israeli and the embassies of the Zionist regime, he didn't say Israel, they call it the Zionist regime, are saying that they are no longer safe. And Iran's official news agency also showed an infographic in one of its reports displaying 9 types of Iranian missiles that it says are capable of reaching and striking Israel. So that gives a sense of the mood, the climactic mood right now in Iran. It gives also a sense of just how girded people are right now.
I'll be honest though, whenever anybody starts a phrase with the quote "not to be something ist," it puts my alarm bells up immediately, right? And so it's not personal. I do get what you're trying to say, but I'll be honest, that's never a good way to start a sentence. Oh, Donald Duck is in chat. Good to see you, Donald.
High alert in Israel.
Yeah, a really serious story indeed. Doug, something else we're watching coming out of the region is Israel claiming responsibility for this strike in Gaza yesterday that killed the sons of the leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh. Tell us a bit about that and whether you think now that will make the job of the negotiators in Cairo who are trying to find a ceasefire deal more difficult.
It may delay the deal. It's not going to be a deal breaker. And I say that because, first of all, Israel claims that it struck this convoy, saying that his sons were active members of Hamas's military units, that they were on the way to carrying out a planned terrorist activity, something that Hamas vehemently denies. And the fact that they had their children in the car with them, perhaps, some say, would argue in Hamas's favor that they were not imminently on the way to carry out a terror attack. You don't bring your children along. But that aside, no matter however you want to interpret that right now, the Hamas leader himself, Haniyeh, has said explicitly that this attack, if Israel thinks that this attack is going to somehow influence Hamas's negotiating stance, i.e. force Hamas to drop its demands in the ongoing negotiations right now.
It's misguided. It's fucking misguided is what it is. Okay, what do I have next here? Do. Okay, this next one is a BBC News report from 14 hours ago. U.S. restricts travel for diplomats in Israel over Iran attack fears.
We begin the program in the Middle East, where American diplomats and their families in Israel have been told not to travel outside of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem and Beersheba. The US Embassy said it had made the order out of an abundance of caution due to fears about a possible attack by Iran. Earlier, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has told his US counterpart that Israel would respond appropriately if it was directly attacked by Iran. Washington continues to try to dissuade Iran from launching a retaliatory strike following the attack on its consulate in Syria last week. Well, for more on that, let's speak to our correspondent in Jerusalem, Hugo Bachega. So, Hugo, a heightened sense of alert. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, Regina, so for days we've been talking about those warnings that have come from American officials saying that this Iranian response is a matter of when, not if. And I think the most dramatic warning came from President Biden, who said a day ago that the Iranians were preparing a significant attack. And with that warning came also a threat that the Americans would respond if there was an attack from Iran on Israel. And I think there have been some reports quoting unnamed American officials saying that this could happen in the next few days. So we don't know, how this attack is going to be, what this possible attack is going to look like. The Iranians have been saying that they're going to retaliate. The attack that happened last week in Syria was humiliating for the Iranians. It hit an Iranian diplomatic compound in Damascus. It killed several Iranian military advisors, including a top Iranian general. So I think the Iranians need to be seen to be giving a response, to be doing something. I think the fear here is that the Iranians could launch an attack on Israel, and the Israelis have been saying that any kind of attack that comes from Iran would lead to an Israeli response. So we've seen that Iran has been using its proxies across the region to carry out attacks, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, which has been attacking Israel on a daily basis. But what the Americans are saying is that this is likely to be different, that this is likely to come from Iran itself. So the warnings are there, but we still don't know, how this is going to play out.
And
Okay, I gotta pause this. Gotta pee. I'll be back, chat. Okay. I'm back. Even in space, still gotta deal with the old elements. No, definitely not finished. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got like 6 or 7 videos left, I think. Okay, first one. Back from break now. This one's from TRT World. Concerns grow over Israel-Hamas ceasefire talks from 15 hours ago. Whoopsies.
Prayers in Gaza City on Thursday for those killed in another Israeli airstrike, including the sons of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. As Muslims mark the Eid festival, worries hung in the air about fragile truce talks between Israel and Hamas and the narrowing potential for peace. Plumes of smoke visible from the Rafah border crossing, a signal that violence in the enclave continues, and much of it being directed by Israel's government, however, is the subject of growing doubt. Reports suggest Benjamin Netanyahu and his government may not have signed off on the strikes that killed Haniyeh's family members. Those came as the Israeli Prime Minister said the military was gearing up for other security situations besides the war in Gaza.
We are in challenging times in the midst of the war in Gaza, which continues while we maintain our efforts to return our hostages. But we are also preparing for challenging scenarios in other areas. We have established a simple principle for this. Whoever hurts us, we hurt him.
Questions continue to grow about whether the government is prioritizing the return of hostages. At an event highlighting the number of people still being held by Hamas in Gaza, family members of the hostages said current efforts were...
I mean, at this point, and we've said it multiple times, I think it's pretty clear that the prioritization chart, if you will, hostages are pretty much at the very bottom.
Enough.
Tired, sad, trying to stay optimistic, but...
And the one fact that seems to be glossed over by seemingly everyone is that there is no separate hostage food supply, right? There isn't some like magical, what do you call it? What do they call it on Star Trek? Like creates food. Ugh, my brain is broken. But you get what I'm saying. They don't have like some sort of particle generator in the Hamas tunnels that are supposedly there where the hostages are being supposedly kept. There is not some sort of, you know, dearth of food waiting for them. They have the same amount of food, you know, for civilians and hostages and Hamas, you know. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous to suggest that they're not also starving, that they're not also being in famine conditions like the rest of Gaza.
It's hard. It's really hard to keep hoping and keep holding strong and fight for them.
While anger here at Hamas still runs high, across the country there's growing frustration with Netanyahu and his government. In West Jerusalem, members of the ultra-Orthodox community protested against legal changes that will require them to serve in the military. Netanyahu's government is currently propped up by politicians representing people like this. In recent weeks, the ultra-Orthodox have been the subject of protests, demonstrating the division within Israel.
More than weeks, it's been months. This has been getting more and more heated.
While many want him to prioritise the return of hostages, other demands could threaten the stability of his fragile coalition. International pressure may ease imminently, however, as Israel said it would allow a flood of new aid into Gaza. The number of trucks allowed into the Strip increased again on Thursday, but still continues to fall far short of what international experts say is needed to avert a widespread famine.
We are constructing the northern crossing, a new land crossing from Israel into northern Gaza, to enable more aid to flow directly to civilians in the areas that have been challenging for
Aren't I
the
a good
trucks to
guy?
access.
While regional actors fear an escalation between Israel and Iran, for those in Gaza, it is the security of the most basic needs that consumes their thoughts. Joel Flynn, TRT World, in West Jerusalem.
Okay. Pause. Alright, what's next? This fucking guy, yeah. He has been out there every single fucking day saying the worst and dumbest stuff possible in defense of Israel, without fail, it seems. Couldn't agree with that sentiment more, Stefan. Democracy Now! 12 hours ago. Israeli scholar Nev Gordon on Israelis' mass surveillance in Gaza and the use of AI to kill Palestinians.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's continued aerial and ground assault on Gaza killed dozens of Palestinians today, including in the Nuseirat refugee camp in central Gaza, in Gaza City and in Rafah, where 3/4 of Gaza's population have been displaced to. The official death toll in Gaza has topped 33,600, including over 14,000 children. The actual toll expected to be far higher, with thousands of people missing and presumed dead under the rubble. More than 76,000 people have been wounded. For more on Gaza, we turn to part 2 of our conversation with the Israeli scholar Nev Gordon, professor of international law and human rights at Queen Mary University of London, chair of the Committee on Academic Freedom for British Society of Middle East Studies, author of a number of books, including Israel's Occupation, co-author of Human Shields, A History of People in the Line of Fire, co-editor of Torture, Human Rights, Medical Ethics in the Case of Israel. He joined Democracy Now! Co-host Nermeen Sheikh and I from London last week. I began by asking him about Israeli surveillance in Gaza.
So every state needs to impose a massive surveillance apparatus on its society, and its largest manifestation is the Center Bureau of Statistics, because in order to manage a society, you need to know a lot about it. You need to know different patterns of occupation, age, gender, race. You need to know their habits and so forth. And so when Israel enters the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, the first thing, or one of the first things it does, is it begins to monitor and survey the population it is managing, which also tells us a lot about its intentions and the fact that it had no intention of withdrawing from.
That's a good point. No one's talking about the Palestinian hostages right now. It seems to be going completely unnoticed.
Gaza and the West Bank after the war in 1967, because you don't put in place such a massive surveillance apparatus where you look at every letter sent, you go in and see how many frigidairs people have, how many stoves they have, what kind of crops they're growing in their agricultural fields. Everything like that, you don't put that in place if you're planning to leave, but you put it in place if you plan to manage the population. And Israel managed the Palestinian population until Oslo, where basically the Oslo Accords can be understood as the creation of a sub-Palestinian authority, that it would take over the management of the daily life of the Palestinians, and the PA then creates its own Central Bureau of Statistics, and Israel changes then the kinds of surveillance that it carries out vis-a-vis the Palestinian population, because
You saw a YouTube short, Dr. Gabor Mate's son speaking. I feel like the YouTube Shorts section goes completely unnoticed by me, and when people such as yourself say things like that, you make me realize that I'm missing an entire portion of YouTube.
Is no longer responsible for the life of the Palestinians, the PA is, but now it is responsible for the security of Israel in relation to the Palestinian body, so it surveys the Palestinian body only insofar as it helps Israel ensure its so-called security. And so we see a change in the surveillance.
I mean, we know what the so-called security means. It is literally everything and anything up to genocide, right? That's essentially what they've argued up to this point, and or what I've seen with my own eyes.
And we see what I call in my first book a move from a politics of life, a politics where Israel is planting 200,000 or so trees in the Gaza Strip, versus a politics of death where Israel is uprooting 200 or so thousand trees in the Gaza Strip. Now, over time, technologies develop. The military develops new technologies of surveillance. And one friend who works in the Israeli intelligence basically told me, we can see almost everything in the Gaza Strip, whether it's through our Zeppelins, whether it's through our drones, whether it's through satellites and different devices. And Israel monitors every little step in the Gaza Strip. Every SIM card in the Gaza Strip is monitored. A lot of times when they say they're targeting a person.
So, like, all of those people who were doing civilian journalism from the Strip, all their phones, if any of them had SIM cards in them, you'd assume most of them did. Many of them who were killed by Israeli bombs. Starts to become the picture. When you start looking at things like this, the picture becomes more and more clear. They knew what they were doing time and time again when they killed aid workers, when they killed journalists, when they killed civilians. They knew who they were killing. They had the data.
And they're targeting the SIM card. So what we have is a whole massive apparatus of surveillance that has existed for years for military use. But what is new, or relatively new, I think it was first put to use in 2021, is the use of AI system. It's the kind of feeding of the data that Israel collects.
YouTube's shorts are filled with scary and dumb stuff. That sounds about right. That sounds about right. I really just have not spent much time looking at them. I think I made that assessment really quickly and then just started asking YouTube not to recommend them to me. Although they insist on they still do from time to time, which is very annoying to me. But maybe I should be looking at them if there's some good stuff in there, because I feel like I do feel like I'm missing stuff by not doing it. It's very annoying to me.
Through its surveillance system to a machine that uses algorithms then basically to create different kinds of networks and to identify Hamas operative or different Palestinian fighters or other issues, because the bottleneck in the different cycles of violence that Israel has had, and as I mentioned, it had 5 since 2008, was always the targets, the kill targets. Because it would take an intelligence officer sometimes days or weeks to kind of figure out a target. And here you can put the data into the machine, and the machine, as the article in 972 tells us, the machine within a limited amount of time can produce 37,000 human targets. Now, the machine itself, the Israelis itself are telling us that there's a 10% error rate even in that machine, even according to Israel.
10%.
Yet that Israel ignored that 10% error rate, and then it just started using this machine algorithms to bomb people in Gaza, as you said.
Professor Neve Gordon, this is the first time that we're speaking to you since the October 7th attack. So I want to ask you, you've just quoted an Israeli intelligence official who told you that given the extensive surveillance system that they have in place in Gaza, they can see almost everything that happens there. So in light of that, could you tell us what your initial response was to the Hamas attack in Israel, and then what's unfolded since? Of course, you point out in the piece that the speed and scale of the devastation of Gaza is without parallel this century. So if you could talk about that.
So the October 7th attack, as an Israeli Jew, was both horrific and devastating. A former graduate student of mine was killed on that day. A music teacher from my children's school was killed on that day. His wife was killed on that day. And a friend that we thought was kidnapped was also turned out to have been killed on that day. And it was a very, very painful moment for me, and it was a very, very painful moment, I think, for most Israelis. And the audience needs to understand that Israel's a small country, and the degree of separation between either a person that was killed or a person that was kidnapped in Israel, the maximum degree of separation is probably 1 degree. So everyone knew someone or knew someone that knew someone, and there was this kind of immense pain. And alongside that pain, there was also a major fear, because everything seemed to have collapsed. The major IDF intelligence apparatus was not working. The defense system was not working. The fence was breached without any problems. And the whole apparatus of the state seemed not to be functioning. So most Israelis were in great pain, were in great fear. But also immediately came this notion of revenge, kind of a sense we have to hit back hard, and so forth. And my fear is that most Israelis are still trapped, still stuck in that October 7th moment, and unwilling to lift their eyes to see basically the genocide unfolding in the Gaza Strip. And that's what we've been seeing in the past 6 months, is this horrific devastation, massive killings of civilians. We have, I mean, Hamas killed 30 Israeli children on October 7th, and that is horrific. Israel has killed close to 15,000 children, not counting those that are under the rubble, since October 7th. We need to understand that figure. 15,000 children have been killed. We have women, thousands of women have been killed, and thousands of innocent men have been killed. Israel categorizes all the men as terrorists, but thousands of these men were not fighters. They were just men that were in the homes with their wives, with their children, and their homes were bombed. And so we see the massive displacement of 1.7 million people. We see 70% of the Gaza Strip now in basically rubbles. We see systematic attacks on the healthcare, that the healthcare is now, which is the institution responsible for saving lives, it's now completely shattered. So it's all been very devastating for me as an Israeli Jew to watch this kind.
Yeah, I think it's been devastating for all of us to watch, even from afar. Really fucking difficult. And the fact that they, it's almost hard to be outraged about this. But it really does lack humanity, right? To just use an algorithm to determine these sorts of things, to then determine that that algorithm is only 90% effective at best, and then still implementing it across an entire population, causing even more casualties with zero regard for seemingly anybody. It's very frustrating. For fuck's sake. What is next? Ah, shit. Okay, this is from 8 hours ago, and there has been a massive launch of rockets from southern Lebanon into northern Israel. This is from Al Jazeera.
Returning to our breaking news story now, more than 50 rockets have been launched from southern Lebanon towards the Upper Galilee, that's in northern Israel, and the occupied Golan Heights. There have been explosions reported from these rockets being intercepted over some of the border towns. Well, Ali Hashim joins us now from Naqoura in southern Lebanon. What does the scene look like now, Hashim?
Well, just a few moments ago, Hezbollah issued a statement claiming responsibility for launching tens of rockets, according to the statement, towards military posts in the Golan Heights. According to the statement, this is in retaliation to Israel's attacks on southern Lebanese towns of Taibi, Al-Khiyam, and Aita. So this is Hezbollah's statement, but as it's clear, this is one of the maybe the biggest group of rockets being launched together, biggest barrage since the beginning of the war. There were before 40, 30 rockets. So it's a significant escalation.
All right. Well, I'm sure you'll keep us posted of how that situation develops across the border there. Let's thank Ali Hashim there. And just to recap, so 50 rockets. Actually, Ali, since we've got you, just bring this into context. There were a lot of expectations that there might be an Iranian attack. Is this seen more so in the context, though, of what happened today with earlier strikes from Israel into Lebanon targeting Hezbollah rather than the concern about Iranian retaliation?
Well, Sami, I can say that since the assassination of the Iranian, or the killing of the Iranian general in Damascus last week, the situation on the border, on the Lebanese border, have been a bit concerning, a bit also unclear. There is no real escalation, just like before, but at the same time, the situation is very tense. And we've been seeing that in the way either Hezbollah or the Israelis are acting. Now, will this be part of the retaliation? I don't think, given the fact that the Hezbollah is saying that this is in retaliation to attacks on Lebanese towns. However, would this be an attempt to kind of distract the...
I mean, if what Israel's been doing is self-defense, then this is also self-defense. I mean, we've been watching video after video after video of Israeli strikes and attacks on Lebanese border towns. So, I mean, I don't know what definition we're working from usually, so it's very confusing.
This is from 12 Rules for Life.
Iron Dome. This could be a way to distract the Iron Dome, just in case there is an attack from Iran. But till the moment, we don't have any indications that there is an attack from Iran or there are missiles launched from Iran. Therefore, for the moment, I think we should, at least for now, contain it within the Lebanese-Israeli context or the wider conflict that's raging since the 7th of October. Later on, maybe this could be an element, but we don't know.
And Ali, do we have any confirmation about how many of these rockets were intercepted? What kind of damage has been done? Is that picture becoming clearer at this point?
Oh, Chad, this shit makes me fucking sick to my stomach. It's out of control. The shit is fucking out of control. And the fact is, Israel is instigating this stuff. by constantly attacking its neighbors and other sorts of nearby countries. Fuck me. Okay, I'm gonna keep watching part of this here.
Well, for the moment, the pictures that we are seeing, and I've seen several pictures on Telegram channels from Israel showing interceptions, many interceptions. But
good night, Stefan.
In general, and given the experience of past launches, there will be like 40, 50 rockets launched, and then there will be 2 or 3 precise rockets that are aimed at certain target. This happened in Safad weeks ago. This happened, and it's still happening. I mean, during the past weeks in Kiryat Shmona and in several other Israeli settlements and towns on the border. But of course, the choice of Golan Heights. This is something, as I've been saying in the past lives, this is something that indicates a kind of an extension or an attempt by Hezbollah to widen the front, but horizontally. Israel have been widening this front in depth, going deep into Lebanon vertically. Hezbollah is trying to expand it to include the Golan Heights. And as we know, since 1973, the Golan were calm. There's neither resistance there, there are neither attacks there, rockets there. So this time it seems that Golan is becoming part and parcel of this confrontation between Hezbollah and Israel.
Okay. Moving forward. Got a few more videos here, I think. Down to 2. Penultimate video. Guardian News. 11 hours ago. Before and after footage shows destruction of Khan Yunis. We kind of did this before, but I think it's worth a secondary watch.
من أمام بلدية خان يونس. من هذه الساحة اللي داخل البلدية. هذه بلدية خان يونس.
Yeah, that's fucked. Oh, good lord. I knew it was gonna be bad. It's all gone. It's all fucking gone, dude. Dude chat. And lady chat. And gender non-conforming chat. For fuck's sake. That shit is insane. How can you be of service? Oh, this is a good question. It's a fantastic question, Gabby. I wish I had as good of an answer for it. I mean, this is my way of being of service. You know, it's so hard. I mean, unless I'm maybe misunderstanding your question. Before I go down that road, let me make sure of what it is we're talking about here. And while we're figuring that out, let's listen to this last video and or watch it. Inside Khan Yunis, Gazans sift through what's left of their lives.
Israelis might be focused on a possible retaliatory attack by Iran. But in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, Palestinians are sifting through what's left of their lives. Israeli soldiers pulled out from here, leaving behind a rubble-strewn wasteland. Local journalists in Gaza filmed with Ahmed Kanan and his family for us. a municipal worker, there's nothing left of his home.
هذه غرفة الأولاد. هذه غرفة الأولاد.
اللي هي تعال هنا تحتيك بالضبط هذا.
هذه غرفة الأولاد. جنبك كانت غرفة البنات. وهذه كانت الصالون. وهذا.
This was the living room, here was the kitchen.
More than half of all buildings in Khan Yunis have been destroyed or damaged by the Israeli assault, according to experts using satellite imagery.
These pictures are fucked. The house for me represents a lifetime. I bought it in 2004 and it was demolished in 2024. What more can I say? 20 years, for fuck's sake. Our home used to shelter us. It was our refuge in times of joy and sorrow. All of that has disappeared. We lived days of happiness and days of misery, and it's all gone before my eyes.
Pressure over the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, with famine imminent. Israel says it's opened a new corridor for aid trucks into the north, where levels of starvation are high.
You got hugs and crazy pills? I'll take those, Gabby.
But aid agencies and the UN say
I'll watch the rest of it.
Is still not allowing enough supplies in.
There's some pretty clear bullet hits here and another one here along the window.
Underlining the dangers, this was a UNICEF convoy struck by gunfire trying to reach the north.
UNICEF,
forced to abandon their mission.
Another UN agency.
We had 500 trucks a day,
Wait,
and
right?
that needs to be met.
Not,
and then
not.
it must be exceeded because the needs have obviously surpassed that exponentially with the war and with the destruction of everything that people rely on, from their homes and their belongings to markets that provide food and services that provide healthcare.
The violence.
You have some humanity too? I'll definitely take the humanity. That's a good plan. I like that.
Isn't just contained to Gaza. In the occupied West Bank, tensions are flaring. Israelis.
So this is kind of what I've been saying over and over again about this conflict, is that when it's over, it is going to be the rebuilding is going to be so much effort, so much like the destruction, like most of it was completely unnecessary. And you know, Israel has just been going to town on just destroying literally everything. Like, if you were to take them at face value, right? This is the way I'm framing it, right? If you were to take it at face value by the way that Israel has been claiming and blah, 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 in terms of trying to eliminate Hamas and all this other stuff, like, the way that they're going about it is nonsensical and inaccurate. And regardless what they say, it doesn't actually, none of what they've been claiming they're doing is really being executed. Especially if you want to claim what they've been saying, which is they're being efficient and precise and all these other sorts of nonsense buzzwords that mean nothing when it comes down to it. Okay, fucking hell, moving on. Oh, moving on to this. Wow, is it that time already? Well, we made it through another difficult evening adventure through arguably some of the worst stuff in the world. I appreciate having you all here with me. Without you, I'm not sure I'd get through these journeys. Well, that's it for me, Space Fams. Till I see you next time, you stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget these folks. These are your Galactic producers. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Robot Cat, Pitchforks Dragon, the Anti-Corporatist, and Vincent Morales. Thanks to these individuals, the work of the Galactic News Network can continue. You too can become a Galactic producer by clicking this link here in chat. For just a few dollars a month, Galactic benefits await.
Science.